I think that they're overcomplicating things, to be honest. Like, for me, sourcing literally boils down to the ability to find people. And that's a very simple skill. It's about engaging search engines. It's about learning how to write Boolean, how to X-ray, which is far more complicated than it actually is, if I'm honest with you.
Welcome to the Tech Savvy Recruiter, the podcast for recruitment and staffing agency owners keen to explore the tech innovations reshaping our industry. I'm Andrew Roger from recMate.
And I'm Belinda Kerr from Recruitment Garage, and together we're your hosts bringing you a stellar lineup of tech experts ready to help you understand and, more importantly, benefit from the increasing array of tech available to you today. Welcome to another episode of the Tech Savvy Recruiter. Today we welcome the lovely Vanessa Raath from the Talent Hunter to the mic. Vanessa spends her days training recruitment teams all over the world how to secure the best talent in these changing times. She's recently been scooting all around the world, speaking at conferences, sharing how to find those unicorns, and we are delighted to have her with us today to talk all things sourcing from the tech perspective. So let's kick off, Vanessa, or anything else that you'd like to say before we kick off?
Just thanks for having me. It's great to be here with my cousins down under. I always love doing things down in our part of the world, in our hemisphere, should I say. So yeah, just thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, cool. And I know, because Vanessa and I caught up recently, and I know that you've got tons of value to give when it comes to sourcing. So I'm excited about this one. So let's kick off. Yeah. So let's kick off with, what do you think are the most common mistakes that you see recruitment company owners make when it comes to sourcing? Where are they missing out?
I think that they're overcomplicating things, to be honest. Like, for me, sourcing literally boils down to the ability to find people. And that's a very simple skill. It's about engaging search engines. It's about learning how to write Boolean, how to X-ray, which is far more complicated than it actually is, if I'm honest with you. I mean, everyone Googles everything these days. We Google our next car purchase, our next holiday. We've just got to get better at it. And for me, that's for free. Going to a search engine is for free. So where I see a lot of people going wrong, throwing a whole lot of money at a whole lot of tech where it's actually not really necessary. So for me, two things: learn how to search, and second, build a brand, because actually sourcing's great, but attracting talent to you, if you're positioning yourself correctly in the market, is a hell of a lot easier than always going to chase the talent. It's easier when the talent's knocking on your door and saying, hey, I like what you're saying, or you place my friend, or you work in my niche, I believe you're the person I need to talk with. Then do we really need to do as much sourcing?
Yeah, I love that anecdote there. Yeah, it is really interesting. I think we see a lot of companies overcomplicating things as well, Van, and they often have all these shiny tools that they implement and then forget or don't use or don't leverage. When those foundational recruitment pieces don't have to be too complex, do they really? So if you
100%. Absolutely. I mean, one of the articles I read this week, I do a lot of reading, is that the most difficult thing about tech, Andrew, is actually the change management to get your team to use it. Because you have a massive outlay, and then how do you incentivize the team, or how do you encourage the team to actually use this brand new shiny tech that's supposed to add oodles of value to them, when literally, be a good person, get out there, meet some people, shake some hands, build a reputation, is super easy and simple to do.
Yeah. We like to make things complicated as humans, don't we? I think we have this thing: if it's more complicated, it's got to be better, but often it's the opposite.
Yeah, and let's face it, it's a human-to-human business, really. The tech does help sometimes get those connections, maybe initially, but I think one of the beautiful things you said is, build your brand, be that person of influence in your sphere. Build your niche, and so people come to you rather than you having to do the chasing, which often we see. They've got all these outreach programs, they've got oodles of people already on their internal database, but then they just wanted to start the whole process again as if they had zero database for every assignment. So those core basics that I guess maybe traditional recruitment, go back to basics. And when you start up a role, think of who you know first, before having to reinvent the wheel and finding people that you don't know out. It's interesting to watch.
I just wanted to say that a database is often referred to as a graveyard, because I mean, it's a mine of information. Andrew, you are so correct. Like, when people say, we can't find the people, I'm like, but you're a company that's been around for like 20 years. Surely you have a database of sorts. Stop treating it like a graveyard, because, if you're interacting with people and you're keeping it up to date, that's an active talent pipeline. That could be your new community. I mean, it's great. So good point, Andrew. I love that.
It's so funny because people are always saying to me, oh, I don't have enough leads. And I'll say, how big's your database? 10,000 people. Oh, okay. So they're not
there
leads.
We go.
What are they? Yeah.
Yeah, it is often where good people go to die, databases, unfortunately. Candidate or a client, they go in one door and then often, for whatever reason, I think to your point, BK, we like to overcomplicate things for ourselves as humans.
I just wanted to say is that, Andrew, you raise a good point too, is that, good people to go there to die, and candidates and clients, but they are so interchangeable. A client can become a candidate. A candidate can become a client. And Belinda, when you've got people now sitting with 10,000 people, that's a database of candidates and clients. That's your leads.
Yeah, and of course, at any moment in time, whether you're a candidate or a client is literally just a moment in time, because, that's just how it works. And also, that. Yeah, I always think about that way, because people, we tend to put them in a silo, one or the other, but we've all been both. We've all been a client, we've all been a candidate. Well, maybe not everybody's been a client, but all clients have certainly been candidates at some point in time. And I think where people miss the trick is that it's all about the here and now. We're all taught to chase revenue. And if it's not there, the candidate just goes and gets lost, instead of that whole nurturing sequence and branding that goes from there to actually catch them when they are ready.
Absolutely. And I think for me, that's a very good point. Catch them when they are ready. It's all about staying top of mind and tip of tongue. And if you're positioning yourself to be that go-to recruiter in that space, that should be like a natural process. The person thinks, gosh, can't go through another day of this. Who am I going to call? Oh, wait, hold on. There's that guy, Andrew, who's always talking about these things on LinkedIn and talking my language, and I'm going to get in touch with him.
Yeah. So let's dig then deeper. So if we've gone through our database, we've gone through all our connections, we've got our branding, great, but we still haven't got the people, what then?
Okay. So for me, the big thing is that where are you searching? So this is one of the biggest errors, going back to your first question, Belinda, to be honest, is that people jump onto LinkedIn expecting to find like Java engineers, software developers. And I'm like, no. The only time those kind of people will go near a LinkedIn is when they are really desperate, and it's often, maybe foreign nationals trying to move between countries and things like that. Because the nature of what happens, talking to friends of mine, and I've worked in the tech industry for, a decade of recruiting, is the techies stay away from that platform, because all that happens is they get harassed by recruiters. So we've got to go and see, where do they spend their time? Because, LinkedIn's wonderful. I always refer to it as Christmas every day for recruiters. But, techies would rather go to GitHub, because they can look at other people's code. They can fork other code. They can build repositories. It's better for their careers. They're learning. So as recruiters, we've got to realize is that just because we love LinkedIn doesn't mean everyone does. So we've got to learn how to go and look at sites like GitHub and Stack Overflow and Dev and Kaggle and all of these amazing places where the tech talent are hanging out and spending their time. So I think that it's not just an assumption that because LinkedIn is the oldest network out there, that everyone's going to be there. It's not like you turn 18 and someone knocks on your door and, we're from LinkedIn. Here's your username and password. It's a choice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was in a conversation the other day with somebody who wasn't a recruiter, but they are on LinkedIn a lot, and they were talking about how people, the whole in-mail thing is just, if you get an email, you just know it's a recruiter chasing you to see if you want to become a candidate for a job, so you just ignore all of that. And I was like, that's interesting. And people just switching off because they don't want to be.
Because a big thing on the in-mails, just another point I read from LinkedIn, is that their deliverability rate is so low at the moment, because when people change jobs, it's not their first thought to go and actually update LinkedIn. It's more Facebook, because they live their lives on Facebook and Instagram. So then what's happening is the in-mail's going to a previous address. And I don't know if any of you have tried to update your email address on LinkedIn. It might be easier to split the atom. But, when people do move, to be honest, it's the emails have stopped being delivered, the in-mails, because they've logged in with their old work address, which is now defunct. They've moved on somewhere else, and try and get back into their LinkedIn. They can't get in. It's too much of a pain in the butt to try and fix it. So they just stay off the platform. I mean, it's happening so often.
I hadn't actually thought about that until you brought it, because I always just assumed, wrongly obviously, that people's LinkedIns were always up to date. But that's really interesting and makes sense too, especially we're recruiters, we're on there all the time. But, if you're in, like you say, a developer or something, you're not going to sit on LinkedIn all day. It's the last place you want to be.
Well, it's just not your first priority when you change jobs. I mean, it would be for us, absolutely, because that's our bread and butter. It's where it's become our glorified job board. But actually, when you want your friends and family to know that you've taken a new job in Singapore and you're moving there, you're going to update it on Facebook, aren't you?
So do you think there's an assumption, like I wrongly assumed, that LinkedIn profiles are pretty much up to date?
I don't think it's an assumption. I think it's fact. So with searching on the other...
That people are actually assuming, like I was, that before you mentioned, I thought, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, okay.
Absolutely. I'll give you an example. So when you go and look outside of LinkedIn and you look at all these other techie platforms, and I mean, you even be as bold enough to go and find people on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, then you go and have a look at their LinkedIn profiles. What you realize is that they're incredibly out of date because it's not their priority to keep that updated. Clients I've been working with in Australia looking for forklift drivers. Okay. So where we found most forklift drivers, actually Instagram and TikTok, because when you have a quick 10-minute break, you're on site, you've only got a mobile phone, you're not going to log onto your LinkedIn and, have a read there. You're going to go and watch TikTok videos and look at Instagram. So that is where those people, same with nurses, they don't sit in front of a laptop all day, every day.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about realizing where do people spend their time, and let's figure out how do we hit them up there, because it's pointless setting this is one for the, recruitment agency owners, is how often do you hear from your team like, I found the most amazing person. However, I've sent them a connection request and I haven't heard back from them, or I sent them a message and I'm still waiting to hear back from them. And that's can go on forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking, actually, it's similar to a resume, really, Van, isn't it? You're in the job hunt mode. The resume is fresh, up to date. You find that job, and then the resume gets parked in your wherever until you are next hunting for the next job. Then you brush the dust off it and start again, update your most recent one, update your contact details. Similar to LinkedIn in a lot of ways, I suppose.
Well, exactly.
From a job hunter's perspective.
Let me ask you two this question. How up to date are your CVs?
I don't have one.
Well, I don't have one either.
I'm unemployable.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too, 100%. And it's quite weird because a couple of the teams that I train in the US ask for a CV from me before I go and do the training, or, I'm going through the process, and I just kind of PDF my LinkedIn profile and say everything you need to know is on there. It's my online CV. And I think that's really interesting at the moment in the fast-paced world that we live in. What is the future of the CV? And this is something that's been raised a lot. But with AI and AR tools that are, passing the CVs, and how valid is that piece of paper anymore?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? There's so many complications or different ways that we need to think about how we process information, what we should be doing and prioritizing as recruitment professionals. And we've talked, I don't know, probably about 5 topics already in this short period. Question to you is, if you had to prioritize, what would be the top thing an agency owner could think about when they're having a really good mull over what they should be doing for their agency and what sort of protocols they should be putting in place for sourcing to make sure they've got their team in the best position to find top talent?
Sure, Andrew, that's a great question. I love that question. So this is my sweet spot. This is what I feel like I've been going on about for 18 months is, first of all, and I see most agency owners doing this, is that they need to niche. I think the days of being a generalist agency it's increasingly difficult. We can't be all things to everyone. I think we need to, for the benefit of the conversations we're having with our clients and our candidates, really bed down in industry, get to know it, or even if you have a larger agency, have desks of people that focus on different industries. Then I believe the future of recruitment as a whole is actually community building. So you need to understand and start building a community in your niche. So for example, if I was running a tech agency right now, I would be hosting events for technical individuals, whether it be online or in person, giving back. I'd have them all collected somewhere. Somewhere could be something for free, like a Facebook group, or it could be a paid for circle community or heartbeat or something along those lines. But that is what we used to refer to 20 years ago in the game is your talent pipeline. Now, what you're working on is it's your network. And that is why business, or should I say big enterprises, are going to come to you, is because you actually have the network. So they're going to knock on your door because you are the go-to person, say, in the mining engineering space. So you have, they're basically paying you for your network because you know everyone in the game, you know where they are, you're communicating with them at least once a month, and that's what they're paying you for. And that for me would be what I would advise.
Yeah, we often say that is have your top 100. Okay, so your top 100 candidates that you can call upon at any time for advice around who would you think about, or what do you think about this particular thing, or just have that interaction with those top 100 in your speciality. And I think systems can help with that, obviously, but it's down to that personal connection in a lot of times, isn't it? Around being that go-to person, as you said.
I absolutely agree. We're on the same page, but I wouldn't cap it at 100. I would just go with the best. It depends on your industry and all of those things, and depends on your geography. I mean, do you want to position yourself as the go-to person for mining in Australia or the go-to person for mining in New South Wales? Think big, think out of the box. My Facebook community of recruiters and talent sources is over about 5,500 people now from a global perspective, because I didn't put any restrictions on it. I obviously restricted who joined the group, but I never thought, oh, this is only for people here. But if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. I think that a community is something that can be based anywhere, depending on what is your ideal goal at the end of the day. And that community actually becomes that database, that graveyard database now is transformed to a community, which is more active.
I love the idea of community. I think it's so important because especially with so much AI now, if you're in a community, you're talking and you're liaising with real people. And I think that's becoming more and more important. We're sort of taking this full circle where people are going, are you AI or are you real? So if you're in a community and you guys are, jumping on Zoom and talking with each other, or you're meeting up in person, then obviously that AI and all the deep fake stuff doesn't apply. I think we're getting a resurgence, which is good. We want to be people, right? I think half of the mental health issues are because we're just locked in little rooms by ourselves all day, and we're missing that face-to-face human connection.
It was really interesting. I read an article the other day, and I popped a little post on LinkedIn around it. Is a guy used a AI bot to apply for over 1,000 jobs within a 24-hour period, and got 50 interviews out of those 1,000 jobs whilst he slept. So to your point, BK, who's real, who's the bot, who actually can do the gig, as opposed to having an algorithm in the background looking at the advert, recoding my resume or application so it fits the brief as displayed or advertised.
And then you've got the fake job ads that are coming out as well. I'm not really across how all that's working. You guys are probably better across it than me, but that's frightening.
Yeah, I think to be fair, I guess the industry has always had those phishing adverts, let's call them, to attract candidates. However, I guess with the advent of technology, it's more prolific, I suppose, or can be, and has a much broader reach than your fake advert in the local paper. You might have posted something, and you get your applicants sending their resumes across.
Changing how much
I think
that's
something that's been going on for years. I mean, it's just the classic example of stocking a database.
Yeah,
but I think it's getting a bit more sinister, though, isn't it? It's all about getting people's information, and like hackers getting in and getting information that personal information that they can then go and use to break into accounts or whatever it is that they're doing. I don't know. I'm probably talking out of my depth here.
Yeah,
no.
I think
it sounds correct.
Yeah, it's definitely happening out there, because people are very vulnerable at that application stage, or they're looking for a new role for whatever reason. They might have just lost their job, or they've just had enough where they currently are. And so if they see this shiny thing, that makes sense. And if they're taken down a pathway, it is very easy for people to be giving over information perhaps they shouldn't be. And I think it's becoming more and more commonplace for agencies to put warnings up saying we will never ask for A, B, and C, whatever those things are.
Yes.
And I think there's a number of agencies that have had to start to do that because they've, I think, been involved with data leaks and things like that.
Actually, I saw a great post on LinkedIn yesterday. I wish I could remember the name of the company, because I'd love to give them a shout out, and I can't remember who they were. But they've actually now got on their website. It's not a privacy policy. It's more like an AI policy. This is how we use AI in our business, and this is how we don't use it. This is what you can expect, which I thought was really smart.
So that's actually a really interesting point. So if you go and dig deep into the EU AI Act, which has just come out and comes into
Yes.
effect in the EU in January, that's actually law. You have to be transparent about the way your agency and or the company is actually using AI in the recruitment process. So if you are posting an ad, getting your 1,000 applications or whatever it is, and then using AI tools to pass the CVs, rank them from, best to worst, and then the recruiters getting the best ones to kind of get in touch with, you need to declare that, because that is in contravention of the human rights kind of. So it's an interesting thing. Yeah, absolutely. And I think more and more companies will need to start doing that. That company was very progressive.
So staying on the AI theme then, Vanessa, and in your lane of sourcing, what do you see there? How do you feel like it's going to be affecting sourcing? What's good, what's bad?
So it's actually really interesting because, so let's go back to when OpenAI launched ChatGPT, November 2022. I was about to, we have our summer holidays there, but in January, I was starting to build my online academy. So next thing, AI kind of burst onto the scene, generative AI, and I'm thinking, like, what am I doing? I'm building an online academy. AI is going to take our jobs anyway. What's the point? Can it source? So January last year, 2023, jumped into ChatGPT, got it to write a Boolean, and it was awful. It was absolutely crap. It would never have worked, all of those things. Fast forward to today, and I'm very much in the AI space. So, to call myself a subject matter enthusiast, not an expert, because I don't believe anyone's an AI expert yet, and run a lot of workshops on AI. And it was really interesting because it is getting better. It is writing Boolean. It can be used with your sourcing processes. But what my understanding is that you still need to know the basics. And again, it's going to boil down to, your agencies, are they going to pay for expensive tech that's going to do the AI sourcing for you? Or are we going to go back to, writing Boolean and X-raying from search engines, which is for free? So I suppose it all depends on, what is your budget? What is your appetite for it? There's thousands of different ways to skin a cat now. So my thinking is that let's use it to augment our kind of sourcing, but let's not use it to replace us. I think that's the danger, is thinking that it can do absolutely everything, including candid outreach, because I don't know if you've seen, or received those messages that you just look at and you're like, I know this person. There's no way they wrote this. This is generated by some form of AI. Or you've seen those LinkedIn posts, and that's what they're using for candidate outreach. I just think that you've got to think carefully about which ones you use, and maybe it's an idea to wait to see how much they actually improve.
Yeah, interesting. What are your thoughts on that, Andrew? Because it's right in your lane as well.
I was just going to say, I think to your point, Van, it's really horses for courses. Some agencies need that tech uplift just because of the nature of the recruitment assignments. If they're getting 2,000 to 3,000 applicants for a particular role, it's very difficult for them to service and give great customer service to those candidates that have spent, let's face it, sometimes a lot of time applying, brushing off their resumes, updating them, and then putting them out there in a very vulnerable state, as candidates can be, right? So having that machine do some of that heavy lifting can get to the right people fastest. But to your point earlier, I think it's a little bit of a scary world where the machine takes over from a human to do that sifting, because at the moment, I don't believe it can read between the lines like a human can with a resume. Okay,
absolutely not.
So you've got that inferred database in your mind, whereby if they say this or they've had that experience, they could probably do this other thing which the client needs them to do, which they haven't, for whatever reason, put in the resume. Okay, I think probably time will tell if AI builds that, and I'm sure it will have that link between those skill sets or core experience levels that they might need.
And also, I think that it's also the danger of, and this is where agencies are, making the mistakes at the moment, is that you hire someone or you contact someone based off just their LinkedIn profile or just their CV. Like, there's a danger in that, because those two places, people are putting their best foot forward, aren't they? I saw a stat the other day. It was ridiculous. Like, the 80% of people lie on their CVs or their LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah.
What's that all about? But a good recruiter, I would go and Google the person and see, what are they doing in the community? Have they been a guest on a podcast? Have they spoken at a conference? All of these things are important and help to create. Exactly. Yeah. You get a much more holistic view of that person, and you think, I'm going to choose this person actually because they look like a better culture fit. They did the Ironman last year, and actually so did all the directors of this business. Like, okay, I need to get hold of this person.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing that AI isn't going to know that.
No.
Yeah.
No, but it can definitely assist you in that process, right, Van, to get that information in front of you.
It
could. Then the human brain can tick that over and go, oh, yeah, that director loves that particular, hobby, right? And so let's put that person forward. They're a little bit outside the square, but because of A, B, and C, they're in with a very good chance to get to the shortlist stage.
Yeah, we're catching up with Ross Clennett in a couple of weeks, and
cool.
He was talking about, or he just shown a case study of, I can't remember the company. I think it was McDonald's, somebody anyway. But for volume recruiting now, like that, basically AI is just completely nailing it on that side.
And I can understand that. I watched an incredible demo. Go and have a look at a tool called, it's by Talk Push, I Am Sam, or Talk to Sam, something like that. And there's also another one called Scotty AI. And basically what they do is that they send a message to the person, say, choose a time, like a Calendly link. We're going to get an AI to phone you at this time, put in your phone number. We're going to talk you through a couple of questions, and you literally jump onto a phone call, couple of screening questions, anywhere from 5 minutes to half an hour. And that is actually your screening for the interview. So when you have got a role where, it's not a highly skilled individual, but maybe you're staffing up for the Christmas season and, you're looking for people to work in retail organizations. I mean, I don't think that that's a bad way of screening people.
No.
So it's,
and if you're upfront about it, I think if you're upfront about it as well, Van, so it's, you're acknowledging, hey, we're trying to provide the best level of service. The first step is we want to make sure this is going to work for you. And to do that efficiently, this is our process, or whatever your spiel might be at that stage.
Beautiful.
There.
I
think was it Qual AI? I think BK.
I was just trying to remember. I think it was.
Spoke to one of their directors, and yes, and they're in that same space where they could have 1,000 conversations running concurrently to get through to people as quickly as possible, to come back to them, to progress them, or to defer them through to another opportunity if they're not exactly suited for this one that they've applied for straight off the bat.
And also, what a great idea to do things like keep your database up to date.
100%.
Start moving that database to a community. I mean, let's start using it. I mean, it's like the internet. The internet's a tool. AI is a tool. Let's start finding the right tool in order for us to be better at our jobs.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because I find talking to business, because I'm working with the smaller recruitment agency owners, and I often find that they've got all this asset and all this wealth that they've built up over the years, but they're looking for the next shiny thing to move to. And I think sometimes you just need to come back, look at what you've already got, and then how can you leverage that much better? And so often there's so much in that pot already without going out, adding stuff on and adding more complexity. But somehow they feel like they're kind of missing out, and often they're, working at home by themselves or in small teams, and they're thinking, oh, there's got to be more out there, more to add in. But often it's just taking away stuff and getting back to simplicity. And then, to what both of you were saying, bringing in the tools, like work out exactly what you're doing, then bring in the tools that are supporting you, not going out and finding the tools to do whatever you don't even know what you want them to do yet. Because I think sometimes it comes about the tool first. Oh, what can this tool do for my business? No. What do you need in your business? What's the process that you need to happen? Then go find the tool.
Absolutely. And that's what I always talk about in my AI workshops. It's like, what's the pain in the butt? Like, what is causing you friction? What's causing you pain in your business? What is so repetitive? What do you hate doing? Okay, now let's go and find an AI tool for that. So, I mean, I had a team in France who wanted to do my training. And I was like, well, this is a problem because they wanted me to deliver the training in French. So I managed to get all my training videos through an AI translator that put up French subtitles as I was speaking. And there we go, problem solved. But I never would have gone actively trying to learn about every AI tool. I needed to have the problem, and then I needed to figure out, okay, how can I solve this?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, see, that's cool. And what I'm finding more and more is it's almost, you sort of don't think about it, and then you go, oh, maybe there's an AI tool for this. Then you do a bit of a search, and you go, oh, there's 10 of them. Like, oh, I could use this. And so much of it's free or in beta, or you can do a 2-week trial or whatever. That's awesome.
Talking about that tool and all of those things is that people also need to think about what are they doing day to day. So I'll give you another example. I had a blog that was due on 31st of August for a global recruiter out of the UK, 1,000 words. And I was like, I had such a mental block about sitting down and typing this all out. I'm a very ADHD, and it's just, and I had to submit it that day, and it was the morning. So what I decided to do is grab my phone, I went for a walk, and I transcribed that blog. And it was so much
Perfect.
easier to do that than to sit down and type it. So I went for a walk around the block, 10-minute blog. By the time I'd got back, it had already been transcribed. I had already emailed it to myself off my phone. And then all I had to do is to run that through my own personal GPT, which sounds like me. It's been trained. Check it, how many words, check the grammar, check whatever you need to do, put it into paragraphs, bullet points, some of the different things, and literally had submitted it within 45 minutes. So it's kind of like, what are you doing now that's very time consuming, that there is some way that you could be doing it better with AI? And that for me was quite revolutionary, because I do a lot of those kind of articles, but I hate sitting and just typing out all of these things.
Yeah, I think there's so many advantages with AI, or so many opportunity use cases with AI and content. Not getting it to write the content for you, but to use it to get your content out there better, faster. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I love that. I love that translation tip there, because it's, it just empowers you to service more people. And likewise, I was just reflecting on the comment you made around that nurture process. So you've already got that gold mine sitting behind you, which is perhaps a graveyard right now. But if you can start nurturing them, utilizing some tool sets there, those keep in contact type campaigns can be just really, really profitable for organizations to put into play, because it's there's definitely gold in them hills, as I say to all my clients. It's just knowing how to dig up those nuggets quickly when you need them, right? Or even better, have that proactive pathway in place as well.
I used to find with my consultants, they'd sort of feel like the candidates on the database were kind of out of date and stuff. Then they go and find the same person on LinkedIn. Well, it's still the same person. It doesn't matter where they came from.
But imagine you were keeping that database up to date.
That's it. And imagine if they had the confidence, say, I get a job in, fantastic. I'll have a quick squeeze at my top 1,000 people. I know that the top 100 I've spoken with or had some comms with within the last 2 weeks, right? Because either I've spoken or the system's been in contact with them. It's all up to date. How confident would they then? They'd probably never go outside of it, right? So it just makes it much easier on that sourcing front. If you can get that process. So you're doing your internal stuff first, and then worst case scenario, you're going out to the big bad world to try and make some new relationships when you're in that flight mode of getting some, a list of people in front of client quite properly. Well, this is an amazing session so far, Van. Is there anything else that you think you should be having top of mind as a recruitment industry leader about the next, I always say the next 5 years, but I think the next 5 years are rubbish now. It's probably the next 12 months really for us to look forward and what we should be doing as recruitment leaders to help our agencies grow and
really
prosper.
Interesting. And, my crystal ball's in the shop, so let's rather go with like the next 12 months. I think that's a better option.
Let's do that.
I actually was reading a really good blog from your homegrown Greg Savage, even though he's South African born and raised. I'll put it out there.
I thought you'd bring him up there.
He put out a really good blog this week about, when you have a downturn, and this has been an extended downturn in recruitment. It's a global thing. I'm seeing it from all of my clients all over the world. There is always a period of really good, the business, it starts booming again. And I mean, it's big. I mean, next week is massive in the US. We've got the elections that are happening. I think there's a lot of dependencies on that from a global economy perspective. So I think my advice would be, gird your loins, because I don't think it's going to get any easier in the next, say, 3 to 6 months in the recruiting space. I think what we are going to start seeing is quite a few people leaving the industry. I think recruiting is going to get really difficult, and a lot of people are going to turn around and say, actually, this isn't for me. I could do a job that's easier and not having to put up with people and all of their dramas and those kind of things. I can do something else, go back to being admin or something along those lines. And I think that will be good for the industry, because I think what this AI is going to do is it's going to expose a lot of really bad, lazy recruiters that are maybe too dependent on it. And, AI can take their jobs. But what it's also going to highlight is the really good recruiters who have that network, who have that community, who have those brands in place, because people are going to start connecting with them because they know those markets so well. So I think we're going to streamline the industry. There's going to be losses, but I think it's going to be good attrition.
Yeah. Such a great conversation, Vanessa, and lots of, like, what I love about you is you're so practical. It's like, here it is. It's this is all you need to do, get in and here's the raw bones of it. So that's awesome. So with that said, where can, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they'd like to connect, find out more about how you can help?
Well, I always say I'm not difficult to find on the internet, but probably LinkedIn would be the best place to track me down. I am on, most social platforms. So just, I say to people, reach out where you are most comfortable. My online academy is academy.vanessaraath.com, and there are actually 3 free training courses on there. So if you want to go and jump in to do some of my training, you are also more than welcome to do so.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an absolute delight having you on. Hopefully we can have you back down the track at some point. And wishing
Excellent.
you.
I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
A great rest of the year.
Good to chat.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa.
Same to you.
Thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Tech Savvy Recruiter. If you like to stay up to date with the latest recruitment trends and insights, make sure that you remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And also, if you'd like to speak to Andrew about turning your tech stack into your secret weapon, or myself around creating an agency that delivers you more money, more meaning, and more freedom, we'd absolutely love to chat. Reach out to us on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to seeing you next time.